I'm having a wonderful time with Monte and Pharaoh, and I'm gonna put him in a crossface chicken, and he's gonna go down right now. Yeah.
A 15-year-old probably should not be having sex with a 25-year-old. If you disagree with that, then there's something wrong with you.
Welcome, Angel Amoroso, to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. How are you?
Hello, Jimmy. Hello, Michael. How are you this evening?
I'm lovely. How are you?
Well, let me just start by saying that I just want to thank you for making me a part of your network on Wrestling Rewind. Really enjoying being a host of the show. And I also really enjoy having Jimmy and Wisteria Hall as my entrance music, as you would say, and my exit music. So I love it. I grew up with a brother and a sister. My sister's 7 years older than me. My brother 2 years older than me. We it was really kind of rough growing up. I was the black sheep, of course, more favored by my father, who took me by his side to do all the things that he was doing as I was growing up. I wasn't schooled a whole lot because I was with him a lot doing his business and the things that he wanted me to do, including apartment wrestling videos. A lot of modeling, underage stuff that he used to drop me off to, and I would fight grown women and grown men, some strippers and porn actresses and whatnot, and he would drop me off at a hotel. And while people were videotaping me wrestling and boxing these people, and then they marketed these videos when I was very young. And now these videos are still out there being marketed. Some of them are being given away for free on adult entertainment sites. And they just keep changing the date on them and, selling them for minutes at a time. I get no profit off of this. And I know it's totally against the law. And there just seems to be nothing that still I could do about it. But growing up, that was my job that my father gave to me in sort of like my beginnings in an interest in sports.
Is there any anger on your side that your father put you in that type of position? To me, listening to that beginning of your story seems abnormal and well.
You were being
I didn't think it was
abnormal.
Why?
I didn't think it was abnormal. I never, I didn't question any decisions that he made, as long as he was happy about. I wasn't a very social child. I didn't have friends, and he was really the only person in my life. So I really didn't question whether or not it was normal or.
Well, I guess
I would beat up adults for him.
Did you question it later?
And whatnot.
Did you question it later? Did you start to think maybe this was kind of a strange upbringing, perhaps?
No, it took a while.
Okay.
It took a while.
Okay.
There was a lot of other situations where, as I was doing a lot of the wrestling and boxing parts, the other girls who were doing it with me, that were the adult actresses and whatnot, were staying afterwards with the group of guys who would sit around and watch the films being made, because they would pay per person to watch us wrestle on mats on the floor. and then they would take the adult film stars and the strippers and have their private time with them per head. You know what I'm saying? My father got me interested in wrestling. One of my jobs was somehow to duplicate pornography for sales, local sales, and he got me interested in watching wrestling on the side because it was something to distract me while I was home from school, not going to school. Dominic DeNucci had wanted to train me and my sister to work for him. He was training Shane Douglas at the time.
Okay.
And Mick Foley was up there with him. So he wanted to train me and my sister. And I had an incident with him in her basement that she witnessed and kind of turned a blind eye to. He grabbed me and like mauled my face and was kissing me and told me if I could use language. I'm not sure what kind of language
Absolutely.
I can. So he took me by the back of my head and forced it between his legs and said, "Lick him," And I was kind of horrified by it, but Carmela came in and she said, "What's going on?" And he brushed it off like it was nothing, but it kind of like it discouraged me to want to be trained by him.
Do you turn to your sister at 12 years old or 13 years old, who's a 19-year-old that's watching over you, and Dominic DeNucci did this, and do you say anything to her, like, how do you let this happen? Or
she was always very bitter towards me, and very jealous. It had a jealous streak, and would if people were giving me that negative attention that would then lead to something that was inappropriate, she would get mad at me and take their side and try to flip it around like I was doing something wrong to antagonize. Because I was a kid, I was being fed drugs and alcohol, and I was drunk, and I was being brought across state lines, many state lines, during all days of the week and all hours of the night. I was up with these people in and out of their rooms, and they were in and out of my room because I shared a room with these groupies. And there was no solid supervision, and really nothing but encouragement from the rest of the group that I hung around to behave the way I was. So I really didn't personally, when the things happened to me with people, I felt like it was wrong. But then when I would go to them and tell them, so and so just I was laying there passed out, I couldn't move, and he jerked off on my face and left the room.
Who's this?
I seen it.
Who's this?
Bobby Fulton did this. Bobby
Fulton
Fulton did this to me in Crystal City, Marriott. I had watched Ric Flair dance on top of a table after the bar closed, and I was totally smashed. And I went to the room that we had rented, and I was puking my guts up, and I was laying on a bathroom floor, and I know that he had come in with one of the other girls, and obviously something didn't work out. And the next thing I knew, he was, tilting my face and jacking on my face, and I couldn't move. There was nothing I could do, but I seen that it was him. So regardless of how he wants to try to defend himself now, when I go at him on social media, only God knows how many people he probably did that to. And whether or not you remember it, I remember it so crystal clear.
where are your parents at this point?
Oh no, this is once I went on the road, I was just with my sister and 5 to 7 interchangeable groupies that were worked for the stock exchange and the Pentagon and had different, very important jobs. Not stupid women, very educated women. I was left in the care of these women to travel. And Dave Meltzer was really just, letting loose in his newsletter back then, telling people lots of stuff that was not wrestling stuff. It was like personal and backstage stuff. And it was usually like me or my friend Jack Andrews or Dennis Carluzzo feeding Dave Meltzer. So Dennis introducing me to Dave Meltzer then at a very young age of 12. And then after feeding Dave Meltzer for a while, me and Dave became involved in a sexual relationship, regardless of what his weird ass wants to say. He knows what he did. Stan Lee was like, oh, let's go get something to eat and we'll take your mind off things and blah, blah, blah. And that same night we did not go get anything to eat. We went to a Red Roof Inn and had sex. Like I was taking pills and snorting coke and doing a lot of stuff that, normal kids like don't do on the road. They don't wake up and go to bed with beers on the side of their bed and, never ever sleep and are like, insane. Like I was never the type, I was never a child. I was never treated like a child. I was never put in the position of a child. I never acted like a child. I never behaved like a child. I didn't know what childhood was. I didn't consider age groups. I went along with whoever I was put along with as per. I was not welcomed too much by my family at home. So wrestling, that was my family. And the people in it, the groupies were my family, the promoters were my family, the wrestlers who I was having sex with on every show, they were my family. That was my family. So did I find it unusual? I found it unusual when I was being smacked around and choked by people while I was having sex with them, or I was being, literally raped by people and spit on and abused. Yeah, I did. And later on, I did find that to be unusual. And that's how I ended up, leaving that area of wrestling. But before I did leave that area of wrestling, there was a miscommunication with me and 20 plus grown wrestlers who should have known better to not fool around with someone that they knew was a child. A birthday party of which, it was supposed to be my 18th birthday party at the hotel we all would gather at. And the promoter, Gary Juster, had, cornered me while Arn Anderson was mauling me and told me that he thought that I would be a perfect fit to work for Todd Gordon's ECW. At the time was Eastern Championship Wrestling. Mm-hmm. And this was in 1992. So we're talking way back. And, he sent me to Todd. I went to Todd's office the next day and talked to him about, what they would expect of me. And, Todd laid it out of what would be expected. And, then I was booked on the next show, which was the Super Summer Sizzler Spectacular, in which Eddie Gilbert wanted to prove a point to Dusty Rhodes. Long story. It was about women, always threatening to be naked at the end of matches, and it never actually happened in wrestling, and it never would. So in comes me 3 months after my 18th birthday, advertised as an adult film star, and got my top ripped off in front of about 300 people, some kids, most old ladies. Just the first incident of nudity in wrestling. So that was my introduction to ECW during a cat fight. I was walking on the arms of wrestlers, number one. So no one was questioning an ID when you had that and a room key and a set of... No one really questions you at the bar. Bouncers don't look past this right here.
Did you become at any point emotionally involved? Like, did you fall for some of these guys and they just hurt your feelings? I mean, at what point do you become emotionally involved with these wrestlers?
Well,
With this,
yeah, because I was very young and I did not have friends outside of wrestling.
sure,
It's literally the only people that I was around. So when
right,
I did form bonds with a lot of people, and specifically people like Paul Heyman, who would go out of his way to communicate with me in between shows that we were always, on the road with NWA. He was working and I was a rat, but we were at a lot, we were always on, at the same place, same time sort of thing. And he was very encouraging as well. Of course, in different ways, in sexual ways, and then in personal ways, in between wrestling, he would always communicate with me and fill my head, with different ideas of things to do. And he would direct me to different companies that I might be interested in working for in New York City, of which then I did. Anytime I issued a complaint of, I got assaulted, I feel like this shouldn't have happened, or I think I got raped, and then explain the situation, I was told to shut my mouth. I was told by local police in my area, you go talk to your father with this, and shut your mouth in the meantime. I got put in mental institutions because my father turned against me later in life when I really realized that all of this was wrong.
right.
And we had a bunch of properties lined up, and I happened to be the one right next to him, and he had holes in the walls and microphones all over my house, and had me followed by detectives and put away. It was quite the situation, but they put me out of the house and made me homeless from when I was a teenager because I was complaining about this kind of behavior. So for a while I withdrew, and I would not complain and I would not talk about it. And I held a lot of it in for a long time because I figured, it could get worse than not having anywhere to stay. And then it progressively did get worse. So my family was never supportive.
Angel, when you started working with wrestlers in the ring, especially in ECW, did you find any of them taking advantage of you in the ring?
Oh, sure. I mean, I was just 18 years old, being picked up a move that was never done before in the ring. I was like a rag doll of experiment for getting picked up by a guy that they were billing as 7 foot tall and 300 and whatever pounds, and choke slamming me to the ground, and really legitimately hurting my neck. And then anyone who had it done after that, it was like a big joke for them to wear a neck brace because I actually needed one. I actually got hurt with that. And it was like, and the thing is, even hurt, I continuously let them do it again and again and again and again, because, at that point, that was my position. And, I was at first, I started out as one thing, and I went through a phase of being a singles wrestler in red, white, and blue, and doing this thing with Sherry Martel, and then being the fucking cut up doll, as no other woman would want to get naked or have her head mutilated in any way. But that was me at 18 years old. I was the one bleeding from my head and getting my clothes ripped off and being choke slammed by guys of 15 times my size as a child. Still 18 years old, call it what you want, but it's still a child, especially when it's a hurt child. So progressing through ECW, after I was had my top ripped off, and then I managed Rebel for a minute, and then we had a situation with the head cheerleader. I was the first head cheerleader in the Triple Threat with Shane Douglas and Curtis Hughes.
Right.
And that was all to choke slam me in every single match that they could get in that year, and then get me to help train Francine then to take my place. So that was my head cheerleader role at that point. I was also dressing everyone in the locker room, making costumes and doing people's hair, including Public Enemy, which I don't get enough credit for. I did all their costumes. I did their hair and was in charge of doing people's makeup when they got beat up and would need bruises or extra blood or, need ashes for something set on fire. I was doing props and everything that needed to be done in the locker room on the barking of Paul Heyman. Do this and do that, and come to the studio and help me edit this and be a voice for that, and and would take my suggestion and then give me absolutely no credit for any of it. What Mick Foley has put himself out there to try to be with this rape and incest national network. They should not even associate with themselves with someone who had sexual contact with me when I was 14 and 15 years old. Now, like I said before, I told this story on many a podcast that got taken down. When things happen and you're seeing the tail end of someone leaving a room and you have semen on you, that person did something to you. So that's why I say 14. I won't stay solid on 14, but you damn right well know, Mick Foley, what happened when I was 15 years old, okay? And it doesn't matter that I may have had sex with 2 other people that same day. Yes, I did have sex with Chris Von Erich and, Kevin Von Erich and Chris Adams. I did, because I was a very confused, drugged up teenager who by then had a unbelievably strong sexual appetite after Goldschlager and some cocaine. So you know what you did, and Kevin Von Erich knows what he did, and Chris Adams also knows what he did, all in that same day. So they look at me like I'm bad for it, but I was intoxicated, okay, by people who brought to me, and then I was encouraged to do it, and not only encouraged to do certain things in a way, Mick Foley, that you knew damn right well that I did not want to do. The Ultimate Warrior did that. He actually did that 4-letter R word to me, and so did Brian Pillman. Okay, so I hold nothing back when I say that those people were forceful and harmful to me in my life, and never once acknowledged or gave an apology towards it, and then want to act like they're friggin' some superstars and holier than thou, like they should be worshipped, and they're friggin' doing inappropriate things with young children, and they should all be ashamed of themselves. And I don't know. I don't want to voice my opinion on how I feel about people being deceased or not, but there's some people that karma just comes around on. Then I get to the point in 2017 where I found it offensive, where I was hearing what was trying to be put out as from Mick Foley's mouth. So I went to his book signing when he was trying to put himself off as Santa Claus, and let him know, and anyone else who would listen know, that man in there, I called him some choice names of what I consider him to be for having sex with a 14 and 15-year-old girl. I use those words to describe him because that is what I think of him. And if other people think otherwise, a 15-year-old probably should not be having sex with a 25-year-old. If you disagree with that, then there's something wrong with you, not me.
Is there any hero in this story? Like anybody? Like Tommy Dreamer? Did Tommy Dreamer come to your rescue?
Tommy Dreamer whacked me so hard between my legs with a cane in my private area that I told this story many a times. That cane disfigured me. I'm still disfigured. That cane clamped around the skin of my private part, let's call it, and stretched it and made it a big open wound for months at a time. And that was my exit of ECW, that I was put into a position as the Virgin Princess out of a joke to make so that I could get caned by Mick Foley in a match in ECW. And then after I got caned by Mick Foley, Tommy Dreamer picked the cane up and opened my legs after he kicked me in my face and stomped me a few times, which was unplanned and unnecessary. He hit me with it, and I got an injury to my private part. And then I was called back. I wasn't about to go back after that, because there were some things going on behind my back in the locker room that I had understood. I was running local shows, and different things were going around about the things that I was saying about people. And, people started not wanting me around. So I was staying home, but after a few months, I got Paul called me and he said, listen, I need you at the arena. Could you bring your wedding dress? I had been injured for, a while. I couldn't work out or anything. I had gained a massive amount of weight. I couldn't fit into my wedding dress. So I had to go out and get a new one. So I show up at the arena against my father's will, that then I just had started talking to him back then, because he seen what they had done to me and he told me not to go back. So against his will, I actually went back and then lost the place to live after the show, because my dad found out that I went back, and then got involved in an angle with the Pitbulls and Jason and Hack Myers that they now play on WWE as some kind of singles match. And I got pile driven the wrong way. You could see that I was so hurt at the time. I couldn't even lift my legs for the pile driver. From the waist down was totally damaged from what Tommy Dreamer did. So I could barely move to even get in the ring, let alone take a move. But I took the move, and then that was my last show in ECW. After doing every position that there was in that company for people and taking a lot, that was how I got sent off in ECW.
Angel, do you hate wrestling at this point? How can you even watch it after hearing some of the things?
I don't watch wrestling. I cannot hear Paul Heyman's voice on the television. It still makes me sick to my stomach.
Is there forgiveness in your heart for what happened throughout your life?
Well, with something that I have to live with every single solitary day of my life, and the way people won't listen and they don't understand and continuously attack me for it. Maybe if someone said they were sorry, one out of the rest that are alive that I can rattle off the names of right now, but I won't, because I think I've made my point. But you all know who you are. And, maybe it just, I'm sorry, would suffice, even though you probably belong in jail. So should I forgive you? No. Do I forgive you? No. I don't forgive them. I don't forgive any of them.